This meeting is being recorded.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here tonight on Monday Night Ignite, almost at the end of May, if you can believe it or not. And what is exciting about the end of May here is that we have Dr. Jim Bob Haggerton with us tonight. One of my faves, all-time faves, exactly. We have a special bond. He is an awesome chiropractor. But he's so much more than that. So I lead with that, but he is a fantastic teacher, one of the best in all of natural health. So you're going to be in for a huge treat tonight, as am I, when he talks about adrenal health, because it is so important. I'm here taking notes too, because adrenal health is all the fingers pointing back here this way too. So we're super excited. He is super knowledgeable about the entire endocrine system, as well as the skeletal and muscular system. Thank you very much, Jim Bob. And we're fired up to have you tonight. So welcome, and let's get started.
Thank you, Danette. Awesome. Well, I don't know how many people we got on here, a bunch, and I'm excited to be on here. I'm honored to get to talk anytime, and I never take for granted or take it lightly when anyone asks me to talk about anything. I joked with my mom the other day, actually. My entire life, I was told that I talk too much, and everybody was like, be quiet, stop talking so much. I mean, I had to go to I think the only thing I ever got in trouble for in school, other than defending one of my friends a couple of times, and that got bad, was talking. And I got sent to the office all the time for talking and opening my mouth. And now people ask me to talk. And so I told my mom the other day, I was like, all those times that you told me to be quiet, and now they ask me to talk. She's like, you still talk too loud though. I'm like, that is true. And Cindy says that all the time. So I am Dr. Jim Bob Haggerton, as my good friend Danette said. My beautiful wife, Dr. Cindy, spoke last week or the week before. We have 6 kids, 5 here, 1 that has already outrun us to heaven. And so let's see, Harper's 13 already, our oldest son. Ellie is 11, almost 12. Evans would have been, 14. This is 22, 8 this year. Tate is 6, almost 7. Witten is 6. Baker is almost 2. So yes, we can fill up an expedition faster than I don't know what. But yeah, so this whole topic of adrenal fatigue and adrenal health and supporting your adrenal glands and what they do really started back when I was in full-time practice in a brick and mortar. That's a whole other lecture for another day. But as we saw patients coming in, what we started noticing with them is a couple things. Number one is the patients that held their adjustments the best and actually had the best response of their tissues, the best muscle response times, the best soft tissue integrity, were the patients that actually were the least stressed. And we're like, okay, well, that makes sense on some levels, but why is that the case overall? The other thing that we noticed is that the patients who were more stressed out, who were dealing with all of these endocrine issues, had hormone imbalance, had tons of blood sugar issues, had to take twice as many supplements to keep them regulated. And there was a lot of things that started happening that we noticed that started becoming a pattern. And so we started digging in and studying way before we got into Young Living. I think we've been in Young Living for, I don't know, Danette probably knows better than me, 15 years now, 16 years, something like that, 14, 15 years. But we've only been building a team for the last 8 or 9. It's about 8 years now that we've been building a team. And before we even started utilizing essential oils in all of our protocols, we noticed this big issue with an endocrine issue with patients, with stress becoming an overarching issue that was driving their entire system down. And so we kind of started this whole path to kind of figure out what was going on. So one of the things that we fully believe is that if you understand more about what's going on, then you'll actually do something about it. I think the number one thing that I am more gifted at is, because I'm just a simple, dumb guy, is taking things that are really complicated and just making them easier to understand. And so one of the things that we'll do at the beginning is I'm going to go through and just teach you what the adrenal glands kind of do. I mean, what the point is, real brief. We're not going to go off in the weeds on this. I'm going to show you what it looks like if you have fatigue issues in your adrenal glands. Statistically, I guarantee you that about 95% of you on this call do, at least. And the other 5% are just lying about it. Maybe not all of fatigue, but everyone is experiencing adrenal stress because all of you experience stress, period, right? So let's talk about, and I don't know if you can see this really well, but I'm a memo pad guy. So let's talk about what they actually do, okay? So when we get into the actual function of the gland, there are no glands in the body that don't have a job. There are no useless glands in the body. You're created perfectly. So every gland has a part, right? Every gland has something that it does that is integral to the function of every other gland in the body. The adrenal glands are uniquely important for this because if the adrenal glands don't do their job, or if the adrenal glands do their job too well, or if the adrenal glands do their job too well for too long and then completely crash, then there is a ton of things that happen that is a ripple effect from them not doing what they were created to do. Okay. And so if they don't function the way they're supposed to, you can't function the way you're supposed to. So here's what I put on here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. There's a lot more than this, but 5 basic things that the adrenal glands are really important in and what they help with. So number 1 is they just protect you during stress. So one of the things that ends up happening is the minute that you get stressed out and you experience some kind of stress, like pulling into the gas station to fill your car up with gas right now, and you roll up and everything's over $4 a gallon or whatever, except for in Oklahoma where we just were. But you get this feeling of stress that comes up, that feeling of, oh, I'm stressed out. Your adrenal glands are integrally involved with that entire process because norepinephrine and epinephrine, don't write this part down, are the 2 main hormones that when you initially get stressed or you get scared, like some major explosion happens outside, or somebody walks up past you in a dark alley and they scare you and you don't know that they're there, that feeling and that overwhelming sensation that comes up, the first 2 hormones that get released are released from the adrenal glands in order to kickstart this entire system to really do one thing. The only reason for this fight or flight response is to protect you. That's it. It's just to keep you safe in any scenario, in any situation, right? So we're walking along, someone jumps out from behind a building, they scare us, boom, the adrenal glands release norepinephrine and epinephrine, and this sympathetic system, this fight or flight system starts to kick into effect. Now, here's what's supposed to happen, and this is where we've gone wrong over time in society and in culture, as we haven't gotten ahead of this deal and haven't been able to stop this cascade or this avalanche from happening. What's supposed to happen is something jumps out at you, you go, oh my gosh, and it goes away, and you totally calm down within 90 seconds to 120 seconds or so, a couple minutes, and then everything resets and you're back to normal. It's about a 90-second response, this stress adaptation response. And so if it lasts longer than that, we start having other hormones that are released, and then it really starts affecting other things. And so we'll talk about that in just a second. So somebody jumps out, those 2 hormones go crazy, that fight or flight response jumps in, and there's a whole third level to that we'll talk about here in just a second. But when that happens, that's when you start getting like rapid heart rate. You're like, oh my gosh, you're like breathing harder. You get lightheaded. You don't remember part of the stuff. Your short-term memory goes away. You're not really hungry. You may even throw up because your digestive system starts to shut down because that system's number 1 job, the only thing that it is supposed to do, is to get you to run away from whatever is there or fight off whatever is there so that you can live to fight or live to function another day. And you can roll on. It's just a protection system. That's it. Now, if your body is so worn out, the third level to this fight or flight that's kind of come onto the scene in the last, 5 years or so, they'll call it fight, flight, or freeze, right? And so you'll hear people talk about this, and instead of just talking about fight or flight, which kind of depends on personality, a lot of it depends on function, a lot of it depends on whatever. Cindy's a lot nicer than me, so she might just flight and I might fight. I don't know. It just depends on what's happening. But there's a third level to where when the adrenal glands get so exhausted that they can't respond at all and your body shuts down. And that's the freeze part. And so fight, flight, or freeze can happen depending on where your body's at and depending on how healthy or not it is in that scenario. All right. So if that first little line there underneath it, if that scenario happens, but it doesn't resolve itself in 90 seconds or less, then you start getting a ton of cortisol that's released. This is a hormone that's released from the outer ring of the adrenal glands, and they're kind of these little triangular glands that sit over the top of either one of your kidneys, but they've got layers. It's like a quesadilla with different layers on the inside. It's literally the way it looks. And on the inside layer is where all of those initial hormones are released that starts this process to get you to like wake the heck up and go, oh my gosh, like something's about to happen, right? The outer layer is where you have cortisol, you have testosterone, estrogen, pregnenolone. You have all of these different things in the outer layer of the adrenal glands to help with hormone balancing, but with the cortisol to really help with the release of blood sugar so that you have fuel. If you have all these hormones pumping, but you have no fuel to make it work, it's like having this beautiful car, you have this Ferrari or whatever, and you're like, this is awesome. And you start it up and you hit the gas and then it goes empty and then it just dies. And there's nothing, and you have nothing to run off of. And so the cortisol is supposed to initiate and release blood sugar from inside the body, literally from inside your muscle tissue a lot of the time, so that there's this reserve and it fills the tank. So as your body starts going through all of the processes, it has plenty of fuel to be able to run them all. Okay. Second thing on here that the adrenal glands are really important in is hormone balance. The adrenal glands don't produce hormones in order for hormones to be produced. Although on the outer ring of the adrenal glands, there are all of the different sex hormones produced. The reason that is because the adrenal glands are meant to be a balancer. So as a female, I think it's probably, I didn't look at everybody on here, but majority women on here, if you're talking about female hormones and your estrogen starts getting out of balance or your progesterone starts getting out of balance, the adrenal glands are designed to be able to inject a small amount of sex hormone in there, to inject a small amount of testosterone or whatever you need in order to try to regulate your hormones to keep you from going too far out of balance, right? It's also the primary organ responsible for helping you stay in normal hormone balance once you go into menopause, which, by the way, is a completely normal process that should happen, that we've created an entire disease and diagnosis off of. But again, that's a whole other lecture for another night. So if these glands are working well and you start to transition into menopause, then your hormones will stay balanced. Your body can handle it because the adrenal glands will release the estrogen that you need to keep you from going so far outside of the balance. That makes sense? Okay. So hormone balance is another one. Another big one that the adrenal glands is involved in is energy production. Again, cortisol being released gets that sugar pumping through your system. And with adequate amounts of sugar, you have the right amount of energy you need. Metabolism, as I drop my pad here, metabolism, the thyroid and the adrenal glands working together are a big or have a big effect on your metabolism. If they're working really well, your metabolism is working really well. If they're not, your metabolism is really low. And so those are the seasons and the stages where you can gain weight without trying, and you feel like you're eating really well, but you're gaining weight and really not able to really control it. That's one of the things that will happen a lot. That also happens a lot, not to side note, but if your cortisol levels stay really high, that hormone that releases after the stress has been there for a while, if it stays really high, one of the telltale signs of really long-term cortisol overload is what they call bipedal obesity. It's basically where you gain fat right around the midsection between your thighs and the middle of your chest. And so you'll see people that hold weight in those areas. I literally noticed a woman that fit this perfectly at the gas station coming home from our trip today, literally thinking about this whole topic and all the things. I went, oh, bipedal obesity right there. She was holding weight exactly between hips and chest, but her lower legs and her legs pretty much overall were really skinny. That's not normal. That's not proportionate, right? You shouldn't have like super skinny legs and then be holding a ton of weight in the middle. That is normally a cortisol overload and having too much cortisol over a long period of time. Okay. And so that's a telltale sign. The other thing that the adrenal glands help with, and so you can kind of see what will happen when they're not working well, is blood sugar regulation. So even though they cause the release of blood sugar to help you when you're dealing with stress, they're also really important in regulating that blood sugar, like helping your body figure out exactly what is going on and what it needs to do to keep blood sugar normal, to be able to be ready to utilize it at any given time. So, hey, and as I go, you're not going to throw me off. I'll watch the chat somewhat. And so if you have questions on this, because I'm going to go kind of fast because I want to get through this first part for you to get a little bit of the gist of it. And then I'm going to get to the how on this and what to do with it. So Cynthia, real quick, she says, one question I have always wanted to understand is when is the best time to take cortisol for someone who has cortisol overload? Perfect question. I'll answer that at the end. Remind me if I don't. And Danette, remind me if I'm like, oh, this is awesome. peace out, and I start walking away. Don't let me walk out without answering that. That's a good question for the end. Because overall, I will say this, supplements are just better in your mouth and better in your body than on the shelf. But there are better times to take certain supplements to get better effects out of them. If that stresses you out even more, don't worry about it. Just stuff them in your mouth any time of the day. Get your supplements in, put the oils on you. It doesn't matter. Like dump the oils on your head, stick the supplements in your mouth. Don't even care what time it is. Then as you're feeling better and you can start handling different parts of information, then you can kind of change up the times and stuff like that. And not to even like joke about that, but that really is the thing. I think that, not necessarily just in our Young Living bubble, but just in the holistic health care bubble period, I think people feel overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I've got all this stuff going on, and now they're going to throw all this stuff at me to do. If me even talking right now is causing stress, like part of you on here are shaking because I'm talking fast, right? And I'm giving you info and you're shaking on the inside. Then in that scenario, because you for sure have adrenal issues going on, to not be able to take in info. And there's always times I can tell that this happens when I travel and speak, because I'll talk at like a random time during the day that has nothing to do with blood sugar. And I can literally watch people fall asleep in the audience. And I'm not to like toot my own horn, but I'm not boring when I speak, and I'm not still, and I'm all over the place. So what happens is once your adrenal glands get to the limit, they're literally up to here and they're up to their nose, like the water line of what they can handle. It doesn't matter if it's a good stress or a bad stress. At that point, once you start getting up to here, anything that pushes you underneath the water, then the body will literally go boop and shut down and turn off. And so they'll go to sleep. They'll just go and crash out because they can't handle any information or any outside stimulus at all. Okay, so if that's you, dude, no shame at all and no judgment. You just got to go, okay, I need to back up and just take one thing at a time and do one little bit and be fine with doing one little change and not overdoing it. Because if you overdo the support, whether it's the lifestyle changes that I'll show you or some of the supplements, if you overdo it, you can push your body too far and really stress it out further, because the body's having a hard time handling life. Like it's having a hard time handling every day, much less handling all this other stuff. And I don't really know anyone who lives in a bubble who can literally disappear for 6 months by themselves in silence to go let these heal up. That's not going to happen. So you have to figure out how to support the system and modify your lifestyle to support this endocrine system that you have, so that it heals at the same time, even though you're still going to have stressors all the time, right? Like you're never going to completely disappear on all the stress that you have in your life, but we have to kind of modify part of it. So tons of grace on that. All right. So how do you know, based on those things that we talked about on function, how do you know if yours are fried? And I'm going to keep activating this thing because my finger's at it. How do you know if your adrenal glands are fried? Well, great question, Danette. That's a fantastic question. You're such a good student. Okay. So there's multiple things that you can go, oh, I have this all the time. That's not normal. Here, I'll say this. All symptoms are normal when your body's not functioning well, because the body should create a symptom to tell you something's not right. Like people are like, oh my gosh, there's a symptom, we should stop it. This symptom is terrible. No, I mean, the symptom is normal because your body is designed to alert you when things do not work well or when you have pushed yourself over the line. What's not normal is allowing that symptom to stay there for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, or telling that symptom to shut up by giving yourself meds or whatever. Like when you cover it up and when you bypass the body's natural alert system, then we've got a problem, because then it's allowed to stay in there over a long period of time, right? But your body's amazing. It can handle a ton of stuff. And some people can handle more than others. But let's talk about some specific symptoms that will come up when your adrenal glands are starting to have fatigue or issues, or they're just starting to get damaged, right? Number one is fatigue. Now, all the young moms in here are moms of young babies. Are like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm fatigued all the time. It's true. And your adrenal glands are probably fried all the time. And it's, or puppies. Exactly. I totally feel that. I feel that deeply right now. We have a puppy here. And I am getting up with that puppy because Cindy's like, I have a baby in the house. You can get up with that dog and you can take care of it yourself. And so I'm doing that. But yes, so fatigue can be a regular thing with that. But if you have fatigue worse in the mornings, you wake up more tired. That's why I put it on here, especially with waking. If you wake up in the mornings and you're more tired than when you went to bed, it's probably an adrenal issue. That shouldn't happen. If you wake up in the mornings and you are starving, or you have a headache in the morning, and you immediately have to go pound something, you have to go eat something right away, it's probably adrenal glands. You probably have a cortisol issue. The other thing is, if you crash during the day around 2 to 4 p.m. specifically, if you're like, man, I do pretty good, I don't wake up great, but man, 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, boom, and you want to crash and go take a nap, it's probably adrenal glands, okay? You're probably getting some fatigue going on. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like almost like an anxiety flush in the middle of the night, or you're like, whoa, and you pop awake and you can't go back to sleep, that is usually a sign of cortisol issues, probably adrenal glands, okay? If you overreact to stressors, like little things can happen and you freak out, that shouldn't happen. Either one or two things are happening. Your cortisol levels are out of balance and your adrenal glands are overreacting, or the limbic system in your brain is so freaked out from the amount of stress that you've been under that it's just overfiring and it's overreacting to all the things. Hypoglycemia around meals. So if you're the one that, if you get close, if you sleep next to someone who snores, that's not necessarily your adrenal gland issues, but that will lead to adrenal gland issues over time. Ask Cindy about that. Irritability, like all during the day, that's more uncontrollable, and anxiety and depression. If you deal with anxiety and depression, it's a neurologically based issue, but it has a big foot in the adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands function, and how well or not they function has a direct effect on someone's ability to choose to be happy or not. Because if your cortisol is not firing correctly and you're not dealing with stress correctly, then that snowballs over time. And so little things become bigger things, become bigger things, become bigger things. And then it literally will crush your nervous system, and your brain will immediately go to major stress and anxiety. And anxiety over a long period of time will lead to depression. Okay. All right. So those are symptoms of a lot of the adrenal stress. But what about one of the things that they claim is really the only diagnosed adrenal issue out there? Like, they don't even have a medical diagnosis for adrenal fatigue. They don't call it that. There's cortisol diagnosis like Cushing's. That's a hypercortisolism, right? When you have way too much cortisol that's pumping in your body, they call that Cushing's disease. They also have a diagnosis called adrenal insufficiency, okay? They don't diagnose adrenal fatigue because in the medical system, usually what ends up happening is they want to wait until you crash. This is just protocol. This is not them being jerks all the time. It's just protocol of they want to wait until it completely crashes and creates these symptoms. Then they can actually go, that is this, and then they can medicate it or whatever, right? So they have to have specific parameters a lot of times in order to diagnose it. So adrenal insufficiency, by definition, is basically to where your adrenal glands have taken such a hit over a long enough period of time that you have way too little cortisol in your system. You're not producing enough. It's where you get under stress and you're the ones that when something stresses you out, you want to go take a nap. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so stressful. Hold on, I need like a 5-minute nap. And you want to crash because your body has no fuel, no ability to handle normal day. And when things start ratcheting up and when things start heating up, you start laying down and your body can't hardly handle it. That's adrenal insufficiency, okay? Adrenal insufficiency is basically what we call adrenal exhaustion. It's kind of that end stage. It doesn't mean that you can't rebuild it. It doesn't mean that the body doesn't want to renew it. And the body can rebuild, anything to a point, right? There's a certain level that the body won't, but everybody can get improvement on this. But we call that adrenal exhaustion. Is the same as adrenal insufficiency. Shannon wants to know, what about ADHD? ADHD, well, there's a lot of stuff with that. ADHD will directly affect your adrenal glands. Someone with ADHD who is more right brain dominant is more emotional, so things will stress them out more. So they will create adrenal stress and have adrenal fatigue and adrenal exhaustion easier than someone who's the other way, who's balanced the other way, or has a personality that's the opposite. Someone who's really like left brain dominant, who's like black and white. They don't get really, they don't see colors. They don't see a lot of like, sparkly lights or anything like that. They're not super emotional, and they're not super empathetic. They're just like, here's what it is. I'm going to work my list. I'm going to stay in my lane. They don't feel as much stress, even though stress still affects them. So even though they will still get adrenal issues and adrenal fatigue, it won't present the same way a lot of times. It'll take longer to actually create an issue. And so someone who has ADHD or who's very right brain dominant or sympathetically dominant, they'll get it quicker. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, and let's go through, how are we doing on time? Because I want to, okay, perfect. I want to spend some time on this, and then I'm going to go through questions for the last 15 minutes. I want to give this next 15, 20 minutes and give you some solutions to be able to support the adrenal glands, to be able to help your body function the way that it's designed to. Now, I always separate out all of my talks into about 3 categories, because if we just talk about supplements and essential oils, then we might as well just talk about medication, because you're just using supplements and essential oils to medicate a symptom in the body. And that's not what they're for. Like, supplements and essential oils are designed, are literal elements to be able to stimulate and suggest to your body to work better, to stimulate different areas of your body to get it to do its job better, right? It doesn't cover up or creates things in the body that it wasn't going to do on its own. It doesn't, like force these organs to do something that they don't want to do. It doesn't take over control in the body. That's not what supplements and essential oils do. So we can't use them like medication. Medication is literally designed to force your body to do something that it was not going to do, or to force your body to do something it wasn't doing that we need to happen, like blood pressure meds. Your blood pressure is going too high. A blood pressure medication literally gets on it and shoves it back down to artificially bring your blood pressure down. It doesn't make your kidneys function better. It doesn't make your heart function better. Your lungs are not functioning better. You're not functioning better because your blood pressure is lower. The med is literally holding your blood pressure down artificially, even though under the surface, everything is still reacting and you still have lack of function that's creating that blood pressure issue. Same as cholesterol levels. Like, cholesterol levels will change depending on different stress in the body or damage. And if your cholesterol levels go to a certain amount, your HDLs, let's say, or this, your LDLs are over here, and you take a cholesterol med and it shuts your LDLs down, it doesn't fix anything. It just makes it look pretty. Does that make sense? So with a supplement and an essential oil, the goal is not to make our labs look pretty quickly. That's not the goal, all right? The goal is to improve function either quickly or gradually. It just depends on your body. Some people, a lot of this is blood typing. A lot of it's just how your body responds. Some people respond really quickly to oils and supplements and get really quick change. But I wouldn't say that they get real long-term rebuilding on organs unless they are consistent and do different supplement protocols over time. I have a whole course on this on my website. It's drjimbob.com, doctor spelled out. You can go to that. Members get that course for free. I think it's only $9 a month to be a member or something. But there's courses all in there. And I have a long course. There was a 90-day course we went through. You can do it as fast as you want, but it goes through all of these different things to give you all of these pieces and to give you time to work on it, to literally like lead you with breadcrumbs through this. But you have to give yourself time. I tell people when they're working on hormones or endocrine system, if you're working on these systems, you've got to give yourself a minimum of 6 months, preferably a year, of really controlling it. It doesn't mean you can't have fun. It doesn't mean you can't eat things you want. It doesn't mean you can't go to do whatever, right? It just means that you're conscientiously doing protocols and you're working on this specific systems for 6 to 12 months to get really good long-lasting changes to where you really see your body react differently. If people do stuff for a couple weeks, they'll feel better for a couple days or a week maybe, and then it'll come right back because you're not rebuilding the glands, right? And so there's just different things to be able to do consistently over time. So first off, before we get into supplements and oils, let's talk about lifestyle, okay? Because if we're not changing the things that are causing the damage, if we're not modifying the things that are causing the fire in our house, it does no good to remodel the kitchen if you're still going to light your house on fire. Does that make sense? If we bring in and we're like, man, we're going to put new, we have a house in Oklahoma that we go up to, and we just put this designer, we being Cindy and the designer, not me. We because I'm married to her, but I didn't do this. But they picked awesome wallpaper, kind of like this behind me. This is a Cindy pick. I love it, but this is a Cindy choice. And they put this wallpaper up. If we did not stop this fire that's like stress and this adrenal stress happening, if we didn't stop a fire in that house and we get the guys up there and they're just rolling on wallpaper, it's going to melt off. It's not going to stick. It's not going to last. And we're going to have to keep redoing it over and over and over. This is a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys have worked really, really hard at getting healthier, at balancing hormones, at losing weight, at working on relationship issues, at working on parenting issues, at working on relationship stuff with one of your kids. and you literally see that you go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 4 steps forward, 2 steps back, and you're constantly like going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and never seeing long-term changes. And a lot of that comes back to adrenal health. If we don't make the adrenal glands healthier, then the stress that we are coming in contact with is actually negatively affecting our body physically, emotionally, neurologically, systemically, and it's damaging everything. And so if we can get these glands in the system to do what it is created to do already, to do what it is designed to do inside the body, then even though we're going to come in contact with a lot of it, it's not going to create as much long-term damage or issues that we have to work on as we go, right? So how many did I put in here? I've got like 7 different lifestyle things for you to work on. And it doesn't mean work on this and not take supplements. I'm not that guy. Like, I'm all about do it all at one time. Who cares which one is really helping? These are all going to do a lot for you. Just do it. Like, do the thing, do the lifestyle thing. You've got people that are super, they're Enneagram 1s or 5s, and then they're super left brain. They want to do one lifestyle thing, one supplement, and maybe one oil just to see what happens. I'm like, that's awesome. And it may take you 2 to 3 years to reset all this. Just get in and do it. Now, someone's going to ask me, how do you test for this? Because again, one of those personalities wants to literally see their adrenal fatigue on a test result in order for them to know that that's what it is. The best way to really test for adrenal fatigue issues is to do a saliva test. There's a company called Diagnostics. We do the testing. I can send you the kits. You literally spit in a vial, send it off, and they will send it back. And you have it's called the ASI, Adrenal Stress Index Test. And it's really telling. Most everybody that I do it on, it's not shocking. Like, I've never seen anybody do it and go, oh my gosh, really? Like, that's not something that happens. Normally they're like, yep, that's what I figured, like almost every single person. But again, if you're the person that needs to see it, do it by all means, like test out. And I can totally help you with that. But here's some lifestyle things to start with. Start these things because these are kind of the foundation work. This is the starter work to get your body what it needs on a daily basis and to handle your environment so that the supplements and the oils and the other therapies that you choose to do stick, right? So they stay. So these are things to try to start getting that fire out inside the house. Number 1 is movement. But the thing with movement, when you have adrenal issues and adrenal stress, is you got to go slow. Here's the thing that you don't do. Oh my gosh, I have like major adrenal fatigue. I just realized I've got adrenal issues and my cortisol is so crazy. I'm going to go train for a half marathon. No, you're not. Don't do that. You're going to pass out. You're going to crush your adrenal glands. Or, oh my gosh, I'm just so stressed out. It's crazy. I think I'm going to go join the local CrossFit gym. Nope. You're not going to do that either. You're going to be in the counseling office. You're not going to be able to handle it because your body can't handle that amount of activity. You will literally cause more damage. Oh, I'm going to go run on the treadmill. I'm going to go, do the Hotter Than Hell 500 in Wichita Falls and ride a road bike in the heat in Texas. No, you're not. Don't do those things. Like, don't be dumb. Like, you want to start with light things like walking, like literally doing like stretching and yoga ball work and different things like that. Like, start slow and making sure that you're not getting dizzy. One of the telltale signs of adrenal issues, especially when you're working out, is dizziness. You're like, oh man, I did that thing. I really did a good job because I almost want to pass out. That's not normal. People are like, man, look how awesome I am at working out. I'm like, no, you're frying neurons. You're literally melting your brain because you're working out too hard. Don't do that. Don't be that person. Go slow. Don't worry about who's next to you, like, running all out on the treadmill. Walk, chill out, breathe, but get some movement in because we need to balance out the brain. Okay. Number 2, sleep and rest. This is a must. You cannot rebuild the adrenal glands if you cannot get sleep and rest. Now, what if that means that you're like Cindy and you have a baker that doesn't sleep all night? Like, she wakes up multiple times a night because she's still nursing her at night. Well, then you need to get sleep other times of the day. Is it as good as night sleep? No. Is it close? Yes. It'll rebuild part of it. So you just have to set up strategic naps during the day or whatever. If you are the person that wants to stay up late at night watching TV and, eating sugary stuff, and you're watching shows and you're chilling and all that, and then you go to bed and you go to bed really, really late, it'll wear your adrenal glands out because you're messing up the circadian rhythm of when cortisol is released. You're messing up this wake cycle inside the body, and it'll create more cortisol and more stress internally, which will create more pressure on the adrenal glands. So if you know that you are testing is called Diagnostics. Diagnostechs, Diagnostics. But if you're the person that you have adrenal issues, go to bed. Like set a time, right? Set a time, go to sleep, turn off all the technology. And here's a huge tip. This is literally going off rails just a little bit, but this is kind of a rant. It's kind of a soapbox for us. So we have 5 kids, right? That we have here on earth with us. And we have a teenager. They do not get technology hardly at all, period, ever, but they definitely don't get any technology late at night. They definitely don't get any technology that they're holding in their hand, in their face with an abnormal screen light really close to their face, like an iPod or a iPad or a cell phone or anything else at all in the evening time. That doesn't happen. You know why? Because that literally creates neurological imbalance, fries the brain, creates stress and anxiety and depression, and will fry their adrenal glands. You might as well give them Mountain Dew or an energy drink every single day. It's literally in the same category because the technology is so hard on their system. Okay. So don't do that. And don't do that to you either. Number 3, lifestyle stuff, meditation/prayer. So I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. So prayer for me is the meditation, like prayer time, quiet time, being able to dig into scripture, being able to read, being able to have time. In order to do this, I have to get up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. every morning because I have a lot of kids. So I literally set the day up in order to do this before they get up. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. And by the evening, I'm exhausted because we've just got a lot going on. And so when I get up in the morning, a specific time that I don't look at anything, I don't read anything, I play specific music that doesn't even have words to it so I can chill. And I do that as long as I feel like I need to, and then get into the different things I'm studying or reading. And so there's different music that I always recommend for people just to chill their system out that doesn't amp them up. Number 1, there's a guy who plays just instrumental. It's instrumental worship music, but it's just instrumental music, period. They call it soaking music. And the guy's name is William Augusto. William Augusto. Literally is how you spell his last name. William Augusto. And you can look him up on YouTube. There's a bunch on there, but you can go to iTunes and he has tons of albums. And literally there'll be a song that's an instrumental song that's 3 hours long. And you can just hit play and it's like the most relaxing thing ever. That's one guy. The other that I would recommend is a CD set called Whole Tones, WHOLE Tones, TONES. The guy that did those is really awesome. I've done some different work with him and we've collabed on some stuff. But his music is basically created in a specific key of David in order to hit a specific neurological pathway. It's pretty incredible stuff. And so you can literally hit it. It's all instrumental. And they're really great. So check those out. Whole Tones or William Augusto. Yep, exactly. Okay. All right. The purpose of both of those, outside of connecting with God and connecting with the one who created you, outside of that, like let's just take it from an actual scientific, standpoint, neurological, is literally to wall out anything that would create stress and allow your brain to reset, allow your neurons to really reheal and give your body just a breather. That's really what it's for. And speaking of that, number 4 lifestyle stuff is breathing, like doing breathing exercises. We recommend for members on the site, we talk about intentional walking, where you walk, but you breathe a certain amount of breaths each step. So you take a breath and you breathe in for 2 and out for 2 as you walk, so that you're literally breathing a certain amount, going to the cadence of your walking. So you slow down so that you're actually walking and breathing at the same time, which fires multiple pathways and creates more stress relief. It really works. Try it. Another one I love on here, and I could go on and on about this forever, is journaling. I won't get super into this, but journaling is massively awesome for reducing stress. And if you can reduce stress on your system, you will relieve adrenal gland fatigue and you'll allow them to heal themselves. Okay, so that's important. Number 6, increase protein early in the morning and late at night. It's important all day long, but when you first get up in the morning, right? When you first get up in the morning, protein, and before you go to bed, protein. It helps to balance blood sugar more. And then the 7th one on there is hydrate, which you would think that makes sense, but the more stressed out we get, typically the less we drink. And if we are drinking, it's usually sugar, right? And so make sure that you get more of that. Okay. All right, so let's move on. You can see the replay on this. I want to get to all the other stuff because I don't want to go over my time. but I got a couple other categories. So that was lifestyle. Let's talk about spiritual, emotional. Okay. Let's talk about this category of how to work on, because one of the things that I've seen culturally since all of the pandemic stuff and COVID and everything else is you got two camps of people. You got one camp of people that are like, hey, I don't need to incorporate in prayer and spiritual healing and have people praying over me and having people intercede for me because I'm going to take the meds, the supplements, do the therapy. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm going to PT. I'm going to this. I'm going to this. I've got it, right? Then you got the other camp of people over here on this side that are like, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to take the supplements. I'm not going to do anything at all. And I'm just going to pray about it. I'm going to have people pray over me. And then it's going to totally go away, which could totally happen. But there is a middle ground that is perfect on this where you are praying like crazy, having people pray over you, interceding, digging into that category of it while doing the supplements, doing the activities, going to the therapies you need, and doing all the stuff. Doing the things that is good for boosting up function in your body doesn't make you less spiritual, right? Unless the Lord completely, literally tells you not to do it, which happens, then it's like, hey, I'm going to work on things that I know helps the body function the way it's created to function. At the same time, pressing in and having people pray over me and going to those things and praying for it specifically and all those different stuff, prayer journaling, all the stuff, right? All of that's really important. So that's number 2 on here. Number 1 is taking inventory. And what I mean by that is taking inventory of your daily things that are causing stress for you so you can literally categorize, right? So you go, okay, what are the biggest things creating stress for me and what can I do about it? Are there things I can change about it? Did I marry my biggest stressor? Just to be totally blunt. Are there things that I can't change about it because literally he sleeps next to me in bed every night, or it's one of my kids? Okay, well then how do we change our mind about that stressor? And how do we take those thoughts captive so that that stress doesn't affect us and we literally catch it at the gate and go, hey, I know this is going to be a stressor. So why am I so surprised? Why am I so surprised when I walk into a family thing and my mother-in-law walks in and it freaks me out and I get stressed out? Why am I surprised by that? I knew that was going to happen. So it's basically getting those things out ahead of you so that they aren't allowed to actually start making physical changes on your body. And then third thing on here I put on here was counseling, because I fully recommend talking to somebody who's amazing, who can sit there and go, yep, okay, here's some things to do and to walk you through all this stuff going on. Okay, find you a person. All right, let's go through supplements and oils. I'm going to go through these things and then I'll go over a couple questions. So not to rush through, but I want to give you a ton of stuff. I know you can go back on the replay for this stuff. Okay, supplements, next category. Supplements actually work, but they supplement a good diet, right? So lifestyle stuff on there. I didn't go through a ton of diet stuff because I didn't want to belabor the point, but I mean, literally it's not that difficult. Eat more good, eat less crap, drink a lot of water. I mean, that's literally diet in a nutshell. Like that's all you got to do. Don't eat as much junk, eat less processed. If it's got a package or a label, or if it's from a drive-through, it's less healthy. Yes, if it has caffeine, that's not good for your adrenal glands if you're in fatigue. And that's another signal, since Leanne brought that up. One of the other ways that you can tell if you are having adrenal fatigue issues is if you need caffeine to function every day. If you just like coffee, I mean, caffeine, a ton of caffeine over time isn't healthy on your endocrine system if you're getting too much of it, especially depending on how they make it. But if you are not in adrenal fatigue, it's not going to create that many problems. If you already have adrenal issues, then you'll know because you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to get my Starbucks. I've got to get this whatever. I've got to drink this. Like if you have to rely on Zing every day to function, that's not normal. Does that make sense? Like Zing is awesome. Everything is awesome. But if you have to have it to function, that's not normal. And so it probably means that something's not working right. Okay. All right, let's talk about supplements. The first one is a split. It's the same supplement, really, just one's aimed at women, one's aimed at men, but either can take either. Endogize and Powergize are both endocrine supporters. They both, Powergize has tribulus in it to help with testosterone release. They both have glandular extracts for thyroid and adrenal glands and are great. Cortistop. Cortistop is awesome for helping regulate cortisol. It does not stop cortisol. That's not what it does. It's kind of a
no. He can hear you.
It's not named really correctly. Okay. And so Cortistop is one that helps to regulate. It's not one that shuts it off. So Ningxia Red, helping with blood sugar balancing. If you're having blood sugar issues, increase it. It helps to regulate naturally. If you are the one that has fatigue problems, multigreens is huge for energy. helps with energy, helps with cleansing, helps to work things out of your liver and kidneys, which makes a big difference. Everyone dealing with energy problems, but also with supporting the adrenal glands, needs to be on a B complex. So Super B is really good. It's methylated. You can absorb it really well. Make sure you're doing that as a baseline. And then the last one on there are enzymes, all of the enzymes. Essential enzyme 4, detox enzyme, whatever. Like all of this stuff. No, they're not in order of effectiveness or need. There's different ones. Like Energize and Powergize, I would say would be a must. If I was going to pick like 2 or 3 off of here, I would do Energize, Powergize, one of those, and Super B would be the 2 that I would pick. Third, followed by Ningxia and multigreens on that. But no, they're not listed in order of importance necessarily. How are we doing? How much time I got? Okay, cool. We're doing good. All right, let's go through essential oils and the last, the other therapies that I wanted you to see. And then I'm going to take a couple questions out of the chat box and go through those things. So essential oils, let's talk about this. If anyone tells you that essential oils don't work, right? And they're like, oh, essential oils don't do anything. Then they have never used them when they were having a anxiety attack or stress, or they have had a kid with an emotional fit or anything. They've never used them for that, because it's one of the scenarios where I think that we shine the best in essential oil function. Now, Young Living has products that are amazing for a ton of different systems and a ton of categories. But I think that we literally beat the market on any company out there in stress support and endocrine support. Like there's nobody else out there that has the same things incorporating in the supplements with essential oils. They just don't. There's other companies that have really good supplements to help with the endocrine system, period. There's others that I use and that I recommend. But as far as an overall protocol to be able to get the adrenal glands to respond, to be able to help your body handle stress, no one does it better. But you've got to be able to use the essential oils and the supplements together so that you're helping your body respond. So we're going to go over topical oils first. And again, these are not all that would help. If you have one that you're like, oh my gosh, Stress Away is my favorite. I didn't list it on here. I don't like Stress Away. I don't like the way it smells. But that doesn't mean that it's not the one that works good for you. It's awesome. But we're going to do topical first and then internal second. Endoflex. This is one, I did put this one in order of importance for that one, because I think everyone should be using Endoflex. Every kid should be using Endoflex. It's amazing. Put it over the top of the kidneys on your lower back. Peace and Calming, 1 and 2. Either of them are amazing. Valor, 1 or 2. Both awesome. Cedarwood, Sandalwood, Northern Lights Black Spruce. All of those have high frequencies in them. Frankincense, like anything you're going to put on, because what it ends up doing is it stops that stress response in the body, and it puts a really high frequency oil on your system when stress is starting to cause your frequency to go really low. So as stress is shoving your frequency and your function down, the oil brings it back up. It's like being able to take a whole breath, and then it starts to shove it back down, and you put the oil on and it brings it back up. Allison, honestly, like using them topically anywhere. The Endoflex you want to use over your kidneys and then over your throat, right? The other ones, inside the arms, inside the thighs, on the back of the neck. I mean, you can use them pretty much anywhere as long as you get them on you. The overall function is the same, and just depends on, where's the most convenient for you. Internally, I put 4 on here. Well, the citrus category has a bunch, but frankincense internally, copaiba, citrus oils, and lavender. Make lavender tea, make lavender lemonade. Like, get these oils inside you so that they're making changes as well. And you're going to see a lot of shifting, a lot of change. Okay, one more category, and then let's take a couple questions. Yes, we're doing good. Okay, other therapies on this. Okay, 5 therapies I wrote on here that are just extra therapies that I think make a massive difference with stress response. Okay, helping your body reduce stress, helping your adrenal glands heal, and adding energy back into the body so that your body has more that it needs in order to repair. Number 1, float therapy, like actually going to a float tank therapy area. That's awesome. It's like one of the most relaxing things you can do. Massage therapy, not necessarily going deep tissue where they're, stripping muscles and you can't relax, but having an amazing massage where you can relax is huge. If they use essential oils, they use Young Living, even better. I would put Epsom salt bath in here with essential oils would be another one. Biomats or Beamer mats are amazing to help increase function in the body and help with healing. Red light therapy is another amazing one. Juve is a good company that has red light therapy that's awesome. Acupuncture is incredible to improve function in the body overall. And then if you really have neurological imbalance because your stress levels and your adrenal glands are so fried, finding a neurofunctional chiropractor is key. Finding someone who specializes in neurology or can get your system reset is another thing that really does help overall. Okay, let me scroll in here. That was a lot. That was a lot in an hour. Like I'll normally take like 2 hours and go through this thing. So let me go back in here and answer a few of these questions as we go. Okay, know better, do better. I love that. I love that quote. Sunny Seattle. Let's see. Bonnie says, good. All these lectures for another time means he'll come back for another talk. Maybe. I don't know. So this one, Rita says, so it's possible to avoid the midsection weight gain during menopause. And how would one do that? Great question. Short answer is yes. Okay. The short answer is absolutely. You can avoid the midsection weight gain. But the biggest problem with menopause, with women having massive issues during menopause, is because they already have adrenal fatigue before they go into menopause. If you look at it and you look at research, America is the only main developed country that has massive menopause issues in women. Like if you go to all these other countries in Europe and across the world, their women don't have insane issues with menopause and all of these different symptoms. A lot of them don't even have symptoms at all. They literally celebrate it. It's like this big party because they're transitioning to a new section of their life, right? And so one of the biggest things that we look at is that adrenal fatigue, okay? Let's see. Okay, this one, Cynthia wanted to know, best time to take cortisol for someone who has cortisol overload. I've done saliva tests and cortisol seems higher at certain times of the day, night. So when do I take cortisol? Best times to take cortisol, Endogize, Powergize, or use Endoflex are, right, either mid-morning, like between 10 and 11:30 in the morning, ideally between 2 to 4 p.m., okay? Those two times. Now, I don't recommend, even though there is a cortisol spike that happens naturally in the middle of the night, and when your adrenal glands aren't really healthy, it'll wake you up. You can get this alert that happens. I don't recommend doing the supplements and the oils in the middle of the night because it's going to be hard to sleep, and then you're making this whole system worse, right? You're reducing your sleep time and you're going to get tighter. So 10 to 11:30 in the morning, 2 to 4 in the afternoon is the best. Okay. Can you have adrenal overload and be very underweight? Absolutely. You can have estrogen dominance and be very underweight. Usually when that happens, it means that your adrenal glands have crashed more than are overproducing. So if someone is underweight and has adrenal overload, Joanne, usually what that ends up meaning is that their adrenal glands have actually stopped producing cortisol. And so the cortisol level would be way too low. The things that you do for that are essentially the same, because we're just stimulating the organs, right? Like we're not trying to diagnose, is it hyper, hypo, or are we too much, too little? Well, we're just working on the organs. We want to get that organ to come back and to do its job better. And that's really it, right? Okay. Can anyone take cortisol? Yeah, any adult can take cortisol. I don't recommend pregnant women to take cortisol. They can take Energize, and it's good for them. But yes, anybody can take it. Let's see. Recordings. Puppies. Do you sleep beside someone that snores? Or yeah, or that. Puppy makes blah, blah. Okay, this is a great question. And this is like a whole other thing in of itself. Beverly asked, my cortisol is normal finally, but my ACTH is really low. What does this mean? Okay, this is the same thing as someone saying, man, my TSH is really high or low, but my thyroid hormone is whatever. If your ACTH is really low, but the cortisol is finally back to normal, it means that you have a pituitary gland issue. So not to get way in the weeds on this, but the pituitary gland takes a signal from the hypothalamus in the brain, and then it goes hypothalamus to pituitary gland, and then pituitary gland goes thyroid, adrenals, testicles, ovaries, all the way down to create hormones and endocrine release. So if the ACTH is low, you've got to work on the pituitary gland. What about ADHD? We talked about that. That's overactive right brain dominance. Sympathetic dominance period. It's going to drive them into adrenal fatigue quicker. Does having diabetes or Hashimoto's cause adrenal fatigue? I wouldn't say that it necessarily causes it, but it is a huge effect on it. And adrenal fatigue can accelerate diabetic tendencies because of the blood sugar imbalance and can cause Hashimoto's issues. So if you have diabetes symptoms or thyroid issues, you need to functionally work on the adrenal glands too, because it's really hard to get healing in those other areas because the adrenal glands have so much effect on every other system in the body. Does that make sense? So the adrenal glands are one that everyone should be working on all the time, always, right? We should work on them because they are related and integrally and intimately involved with every single thing that happens. Every sensation that I am experiencing right now, my adrenal glands are regulating and releasing hormones and regulating neurological function. It's a huge air traffic controller. Okay. Stephanie goes, no intense cardio. Sounds great. But do some cardio. That's important. One more question, and we've got 3 minutes, and then I'm going to pass it back over to Stephanie or Danette or whoever. I lost the screens battle years ago. You can fight that battle again. It's important. One of the things that you can give your kids if they're older, there's a book, Glow Kids. Give them that book, and if they can read that book and still go, nah, I don't care, I'm going to read screens, then they're going to bring it on themselves. Let's see. Okay.
You know,
No,
when doctors
chiropractor, but do all the function. Yes, ma'am. Go for it.
a lot of people are really into intermittent fasting right now. How would that affect your adrenals?
Great question. So intermittent fasting is super awesome if you're super healthy. The hard thing about intermittent fasting is if your adrenal glands are already fatigued or if you have blood sugar issues, even though they help with blood sugar long term, it can create more thyroid or adrenal issues in the short term. So one of the things that you want to do is if you're going to intermittent fast, there's some systems out there that recommend intermittent fasting a lot. If you study root cause protocol and some of the other people that are looking at specific, like historical eating, they are super against intermittent fasting because of how hard it is on your hormones and your endocrine system. So if you have adrenal issues at all and you don't react to stress well, then you are going to need more food in the morning because your sugar's already off. So not eating early in the morning and waiting until after lunch or whenever your window is, if you're in, an 18-6 or you're, 12-12 or whatever your window is, like if you do the warrior fast or whatever your thing is, then it can end up causing more issues. So what I would do is go, oh, I want to try it. Or I'm doing intermittent fasting and I feel like crap. I feel worse. Like I'm a bear. I'm mean to everybody. I'm reacting and just blowing up at everybody. It's probably because you have adrenal fatigue and it's making the blood sugar problem worse. So work on your adrenal glands and then you can come back to that. Good question. Boom. I think I'm at my limit. Bam. 1 minute before. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it so much. The key is just doing something consistently for a long period of time, knowing that these glands need help every single day. So even if you're not taking supplements, get an oil you love, get whatever. I love Valor. I love that one a ton, but one of my favorites is Tranquil, the blend, or the CBD Calm Roller. That one is money. Keep it on you all the time. Keep it with your kids. Roll it on all the time, and it'll at least help your body, handle a lot of the stressors you come in contact with. You guys are awesome.
Do you have contact information?
If you go to drjimbob.com, it's all on there, or you can follow me on Instagram, which is again, Dr. Jimbob, DOCTOR Jimbob. It's all the same. Okay. I probably respond better on Instagram than anywhere else, but you can get to me and book a consult or find courses and stuff like that at drjimbob.com.
Okay. Are you an endocrinologist? I'm sorry. I have Cushing's and I got diagnosed and I now have adrenal insufficiency.
Sure. So, yeah, Cushing's is overactive cortisol, right? And then it fries itself. And then the medication is harder on it and they'll crash, right? Which totally happens.
I had a tumor. So yeah.
Yes. The adenovas will do that as well. So I am not an endocrinologist. I'm a chiropractor that deals with function, right? That's our main thing.
Okay.
We'll deal with functional neurology, functional nutrition, all of those things. And so, I'd be more than happy to point you in really good directions and get you some protocols to work on. So just reach out to me and let me know.
Thank you.
That was awesome. As always, you can also find a lot of great recordings on the adrenal stuff in the EOC. Isn't that true? You still have stuff in there, right? Essential Oil Club Facebook group
is in the Essential Oil group. Yeah, the Essential Oil Club. And so if you just go to that, and it's a free group, you can literally get in there. I mean, I think there's like 200 or 260,000 people in that group. And we haven't put new stuff in there in a while because the stuff in there is just gold. And it's like, just go in there, use it whenever. It's amazing information. And I've got some stuff in there, but we've got other awesome presenters like Danette and Melissa Pepping and, you know, Tom Nicola and Doug Corrigan and all kinds of awesome people that have got great classes in there.
Awesome. Thank you. So there's the link for that Essential Oil Club. Thank you, Jim Bob. Appreciate the socks off of you. And I hope you have a great night. Thank you for always sharing key information that we need to know about. And this was it tonight. So thank you very much.
Hey, to find the recording, is that on Facebook under